Hey guys, welcome back into Brady's Auto Repair. Today we got this 2004 Jeep Wrangler with a 4.0 and it needs a valve cover gasket. So you'll want to remove your air box, your air tube that comes across and goes over. It's an 8mm here and an 8mm where it comes over here, and then I went ahead and pulled the air box and the filter out and laid it to the side. You've got one of your vent hoses here. We'll pop loose our cables there and lay them over to the side. We'll have another breather hose here, rear wiring harness here we may have to pop up out of the way. But then we have all of these 7/16 that hold the valve cover down. Let's get all of them loose, because you can see all the oil that's puddled up on this thing. And the Jeep needs a starter, so I'm pretty sure it needs a starter because it's soaked in oil. So this is where we're starting at this morning. Alright, we got our valve cover removed. I still have the gasket in there we got to get out. I did take off this AC line and slid it up and over the stud to make room there. Heater hoses I just laid over underneath the ignition coil. Top end don't look too bad. It's fairly clean. The oil in this thing is black, but not knowing any history on this thing, it don't look bad at all. So we'll get that gasket popped out, get the new Felpro gasket set in there. I'm gonna get the valve cover scrubbed and cleaned up, and then we can reassemble our old crusty gasket and our new Felpro going in. You have two dowels to line up on your valve cover gasket right there, and then right back there between 5 and 6. Alright, purple power, a Scotch-Brite, water hose, and some brake cleaner. And we got all the junk off of it. It literally looks like a brand new valve cover again, and there will be no sign of an oil leak. So we're gonna let that dry, sit in the sun for a minute. May take the air hose or brake cleaner and some rags, dry everything off good. The grommets with the new rubbers we get, and we're gonna get all them ready to rock and roll. After we get this done, we'll get the valve cover dry, and then we'll start reassembly. Alright, we got all these separated. There's the new ones, there's the metal caps, and these are the old rubber grommets. Man, they were so brittle. They were tough. They were hard to get off there. What I used, a pair of Nippics, a small flathead, and a pick. And I would hold it and then get the pick in there and try to break it free, and then use the flathead to get it off. They suck. They were a pain in the butt. That may have been the worst part of the whole job. Now we'll get those wiped down and cleaned of debris, and then we'll get that prepped and ready to reinstall. Alright, valve cover reinstalled. Don't forget your back bolts and reclip in your harness if you disconnected that black protector there. Everything's back in. We got this electrical harness here, snap back over the studs. I've got to get this one right here put back on. And then we'll get these heater hoses pulled up out of the way. We'll pull that ignition coil out and show you how to change plugs. Alright, so to do the spark plugs, you've got 4 13mm bolts. 1, 2, 3, and 4 right there. And then we'll get this coil out of the way. Just pull up on the coil and it comes off to give you access to your plugs. So now let's get those pulled. Alright, we got cylinder 1 plug out. The gap is way big. You can gap that with a flathead screwdriver. So we got our new plug ready. We got our anti-seize prepped on. Don't ever forget your anti-seize. And we'll get these new plugs put in. Here's all 6 plugs, starting at nut cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then look at cylinder 6. That valve cover gasket leaking was really taking its toll on that back cylinder, because all that oil was running right down that valve cover and dumping off right back there. Alright, ignition coil is reinstalled. Now we got new battery terminals because these are junk, and we have a deep cycle battery on a recharging system, and we can't have that. So I've got a new battery to put in it, and then we'll get after that starter. Right, on your starter replacement, from up top you have a 13mm nut right here. This gets the cable off, and then you have a squeeze tab blade terminal that is right down there below that top of that nut. Alright, now we'll go underneath. We've got 2 bolts, and then we'll remove the starter. Alright, and for those 2 bolts underneath, you have 1 bolt right here, and the top bolt is right there. This is going in between the frame and the exhaust, passenger side of the Jeep. Right there's your other bolt. And then you can remove your starter, which is right here. Alright, when you get the starter out, you got a longer top bolt and a shorter bottom bolt. I was able to use my Pittsburgh, shout out to Harbor Freight, this shorter flex head ratchet to get to that top bolt. And the bottom bolt, this has got an automatic trans, so it has an extra skid plate to get in between here, the front of the skid plate and the bell housing bolt there to get that starter out. Now let's look at the old starter. That is the original Chrysler starter from 04. That's probably why it failed. So we went down to O'Reilly's, we got our Ultima starter. We're gonna throw this sucker on here. This one here worked, but you had to turn the key about 8 to 10 times before it finally ever fired. So let's get this new one on here and let's get her done. Slide that back on. Flat washer first. Lock washer next. And a nut. Alright, we got our battery in, new cable ends, everything's on and tightened up. So now we got our air cleaner back on. Now let's fire this thing up. Yeah, I'll open the door. Oh man, so much better.